To the Flipping and Wholesaling Houses in New York show. I am Michael Pinter, where I teach you how to start flipping or wholesaling houses, or if you're already doing it, how to grow your business. So we're going to ask, the question asked today was how to get a list of absentee owners. So I'm going to give you a few ways to get that, and I'm also going to explain, if you stay to the end, why that is a good list to get, right? Because it's not so easy to get good lists in New York. Okay, so the easiest way to get a list of absentee owners, number one, I would say you can go to PropStream and you can just look for non-occupant owners. Now, the popular list that people go for are absentee vacant, right? So those are even better, right? If somebody doesn't live there and no one's living there, that might be something that they want to sell. But absentee owners is good by itself. And again, we'll talk about that more at the end. So PropStream is a good way to get it. Any mail house that you do with, I get my mail from Yellow Letter HQ out in San Diego, and they should be able to, if you give them a county or a list, they'll give you a list of all absentee non-owner occupant homes. So non-owner occupant homes. So actually, well, they'll give you a list of vacant homes for sure from the post office. The way that absentee owner lists are generated usually is from the county. The county looks at properties where the tax bills are not going to the property. It doesn't always mean it's absentee. It could mean that it's a second home, right? So if I have a house in New York and I own a vacation home, right, either in New York or in another state, I'm going to have those tax bills go to my home. So that's theoretically it's absentee, but it doesn't mean that I'm trying to rent it out. It could mean just that I use it on occasion, and that it's just not my primary residence. Now, that's one way. So mail houses can sometimes get those lists. Any data provider that goes to the county can probably get you those lists. For sure, PropStream can get you that list, and those are the ways I would suggest to get it. Now, the reason why this is a better indicator that someone might want to sell is because they don't live there, and even people, even if it's a second home, if they go through any kind of economic distress, the first property they're going to sell is an investment property, and the second property they're going to sell is probably a second home. So the thinking is people are more likely, and it's true, more likely to sell a property they don't live in than a property they do live in, because if they sell a property they live in, they need to find someplace else to go. So most data providers can go get that information from the county. Now, you can also outsource to a VA who can go to the county websites and look for these things, but sometimes that's problematic. You can hire also really good data guys to run a bot, which will run through the county system to pull it out. But there are plenty of data providers out there that can provide these things for you. So one of them is Listability, ListSource. These are data providers who can get you a list of every single absentee-owned property in a county or in certain zip codes. Again, PropStream does it. So I hope this is helpful. Now, I've been 3 minutes into this, and I'm going to talk for 10 minutes. So let's talk about what else we're going to talk about. So once you get a list of absentee owners, what do you do? So there are a bunch of ways to market to them. In my opinion, the best way is mail, right? Mail works, right? You don't mail the property address. You're going to mail the mailing address where they live. And you're going to reference the property, and you're going to say you're interested in selling. I would say the most common mistake people make is that they mail anybody once. And if you mail anyone once and then they stop, you're really throwing your money down the toilet. I would say the best thing you should do is to mail any list you have at least 6 to 7 times. And it seems counterintuitive, right? Because you would think, well, if somebody wants to sell, I send them a piece of mail, they don't respond, what the hell is going to change if I mail them, 5 or 6 more times? And here are the answers. There are really 2 major answers. Number one is, by persisting and mailing them multiple times, you are convincing them that you are interested. And for some people, that makes a difference. Number 2 is that there is a huge luck factor in our marketing, right? And people don't talk about that, right? They just think marketing, I put in X dollars, I get X dollars out. But here's the sort of unwritten, unspoken truth. You can market and mail to, or ever market to a list. I can market to the list. I'll get some deals, you'll get other deals. There are people that I'll speak to, you'll never speak to. The people you'll speak to, I'll never speak to. There is a luck factor. There's a luck factor in reaching the person. There's a luck factor in contacting that person on a day where they might want to sell. So, for example, someone may have an absentee-owned property, right, sitting there, not expensive, they're fine covering the cost. But then a tenant will tell them, hey, you know what? I'm not paying you rent anymore, or I'm looking for a place, or I just lost my job, and I don't know. See, and that day they might feel very differently about that property and what they want to do with it. Or someone has a property and there's a small leak, and they think it'll be, a small fix, and then the roofer comes back and says you need the entire roof ripped off and replaced, and it's going to be $14,000. On that day, they're going to feel differently about that property than the day before. And a prospect could say screw you to 100 people who reached out and said you're interested in selling, and then that 101st calls them that day. Sorry, I'm drinking coffee, which I never do. And then on that day, all they want to do is sell, and they go, yeah, come over, I want you to take a look at it, give me a number. Those are the things that happen. I promise you, it seems almost completely random and chaotic, but there is a huge luck factor in it. So the idea is you take a funnel of people that are likely to sell, maybe because they're absentee owners, maybe because the properties are vacant, maybe because they're under economic distress, maybe whatever, some kind of issue with the property or some kind of issue with the person, and then you market to them. Right now, I market to my list via mail. I mail them every month. I have cold callers who call them. I text them, and I RVM them. I ringless voicemail them. Now, sorry. My thinking is I want to reach them as many ways because I don't know which way they really prefer, and I want to hit them, and I want to hit them multiple times. And if they're interested in selling, then I want them to raise their hand, and then I want to have a conversation. Then I want somebody in my team to have a conversation with them, and if they are qualified, then I want to go out and take a look at it and make them an offer. But the idea that, hey, I'm just going to possibly reach out and hope that this list shows up with a bunch of deals is unfortunately unlikely. Now, excuse me. I can tell you that being someone who operates in New York but is part of a national mastermind, and I have a lot of friends who do this all over the country, it's harder to get leads in New York. It is. And there's a bunch of reasons for that. I would say New Yorkers really have their guard up more, number one. Number two, New Yorkers look at real estate very differently than real estate in other states. It's really like another planet. So, because in other states, you can really close a deal in like 4 days. In New York, it just takes a long time due to the way real estate transactions take place. Real estate transactions in 49 states take place between a buyer and a seller. You have a house, I want to buy it, I'll give you a contract, we're in contract. In New York, the transaction takes place between the seller's attorney, who generates the contract, and the buyer's attorney. And there is a back and forth, and it takes time, right? A quick deal for me is 2 months. A quick deal for people in other states is a few days. So because of that, New Yorkers who went through that when they bought, maybe they've sold, maybe they bought a few properties, they know that their property is not an ATM, right? They can't go in there today, put their PIN in, and get cash out of it. They can get money out of it if they're really in a pinch, but it's going to take time. And because they know it's going to take time, when they look at some kind of economic distress, they don't look at their house as a means to relieve that economic distress. Also, foreclosures in New York can take 10, 15 years. So even if they're in such economic distress that they are looking at their house being possibly foreclosed on, the truth is it's still going to take time, and they know that, and that's why everything takes longer in New York. And the way you communicate in New York really has to be a little different because of that, right? In 49 states, everyone's taught you call up and you go, oh, we can close 24 hours. I'll close whenever you want. I'll close. Sell me your house. In New York, that's a bad approach. Okay. What I say to people is, listen, I'll close whenever you want. That can be as quickly as in a few weeks, or if you need time to go somewhere, I'll wait for you as long as you need. Right? I've certainly, without a doubt, bought more houses from people who sold to me because they wanted the flexibility of knowing that they could find a place to go and needed as much time, like an open end. I've sold much more houses to people like that than people who really needed to close quickly. I've sold houses. Bought houses from. I bought houses from people who need to sell quickly, but I've certainly bought more houses from people who needed more time on the end. So that's just the different way it works in New York. So this is really like a primer on real estate marketing. I hope this was helpful. I really ran out of the answer of how to get a list of absentee owners in about 3 minutes, and I usually go for 10 minutes. So I hope this was helpful. If you want information on how I can help you, go to howtoflipnewyork.com. If you are interested in my course that teaches how to do this, go to howtoflipnewyorkcourse.com. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching, go to the website coaching.howtoflipnewyork.com. And If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. If you are watching on any channel, please click the thumbs up. The thumbs up really helps me. Those likes really help me. A lot more people have been seeing my videos now because a lot more people are liking them, so I really appreciate it. And keep the comments coming. There are no bad comments. If it's a simple answer, I'll just reply with an answer. If it's a topic that maybe I've covered in depth or recently, I'll just send you a link to the video. And if it's a topic that I haven't covered in a long time or never covered, I'll do a video on it. So I really appreciate you watching. Thank you very, very much.